I've been watching you for a few weeks. Nice to meet you.
So just a couple of things. I want to get some things clarified here. You haven't been very clear with dates about when things happen, so I want to get that hammered down. Is that okay?
Sure.
All right. I understand on February 4th, 2022, or maybe it was the 3rd, you were in a car accident out in Kingston. You ended up in a ditch. Is that right?
I ended up in a ditch in a tree on February 3rd, and 45 minutes later, I was in Tim Hortons doing an interview on Steven Crowder.
Okay. And so you were in Kingston, and then I take it you got in back to...
Kemptville.
Kemptville, sorry. In Kemptville, and then you got back to Ottawa the evening of February 4th. Is that fair?
No, February 3rd.
February 3rd.
Yeah, I was picked up by a friend who came to rescue me after the interview to get back into Ottawa.
Right. And then was it the 3rd or the 4th where you broke your leg?
The 4th.
The 4th. So February 4th. And after you broke your leg, I take it you were in the hospital for a brief period of time, or were you?
I got out of the hospital the next morning at 7 o'clock in the morning. I don't remember much of that day because of Dilaudid and all the medication, but midway through the day, I started at least to become aware and got back to slowly working through media and stuff like that.
Okay, so February 5th, you get out of the hospital.
No. I was out of the hospital on February 5th. Yeah, the morning of February 5th.
So morning February 5th. So you get out of the hospital and your leg's broken. I understand it was a pretty bad break, eh?
Still hurts so much.
Still hurts, right. And so you said just now you were on a bunch of medication. Is that correct?
Yep, for 24 hours.
Yeah. And what was that?
Dilaudid.
Okay. And I take it then after that, you would have still been on some form of pain medication, would you not?
Oh, just Advil.
Okay.
Advil.
And so after that time, so after February 4th, you're pretty restricted mobile-wise. You stayed in essentially in your hotel room for most of the time, right?
Yep.
Okay. So you weren't out on the street talking to anybody or anything like that?
I tried to go out every Sunday, and I did, to when Pastor Hildebrand did his service. There was the Lubavitch Jewish community that wanted to see me for whatever reason. So I would go every Sunday. The pastors would give their service. And started the first weekend, me, Tamara, and Chris were on stage. And my idea was we have to be here every Sunday to thank everybody for coming out and supporting us and all that. So I did that.
But other than that, you were pretty much confined to your room, right?
I was confined to the hotel. I did manage to go to one meeting at the Ark when my leg was broken. That was the meeting with all the road captains. There was like 40 of them in there. One of the people working with me said it would be a good sentiment, even though you can't. So I did, yeah.
Right.
Sure.
And you weren't a road captain, right?
No.
Right. Okay. And so it's fair to say that from February 4th onward, you weren't really on the street talking physically in their presence to any of the truckers, right?
No, but I had the person who was assisting me on messaging. She was going to the Ark Hotel and the Swiss Hotel meetings every morning, keeping me up to date. I was in communication with Tamara and the group over Signal, so there was no lack of communication there. And then I had two friends that had come up, well, friends, one's a reporter and another friend, who came up to Toronto, and he came up to Ottawa, were staying, sleeping over in the adjacent suite, and they were going out to the groups, talking to people, bringing people back to the hotel. That's how I managed.
So this individual you were saying was keeping you up to date other than Tamara. You said you had somebody in communications working with you. Who was that?
His name is Salman Sima. He is an activist from Iran.
Okay, thank you. And you'd said in your evidence in chief that Ms. Lich was constantly coming to your room every day, and that was happening all the time?
There were a few days that she disappeared. I remember one day I couldn't get a hold of her all day, and you had to see the stress that she was under. I really sympathized with her.
Right.
So she went to Quebec, for example, a day, and she got back to me at 6, 7 o'clock. That happened a few times, but whenever she was in the hotel, we would see each other fairly frequently.
And I take it that frequency of seeing her, it declined after February 7th. Would you agree?
No, I wouldn't agree.
Okay.
I saw her at my promo video is her giving me a hug the day that she was arrested.
I'm not saying that you didn't see her. I'm saying the frequency that you would see her from February 7th on declined. Would you agree?
I don't remember it that way, but it could be
Okay.
because so much was going on.
Did you know that basically everyone other than yourself and Chris Barber had checked out of the Sheraton on February 7th, 2023, and were staying at the Swiss?
I know there was a lot of jockeying around with hotel rooms because we were getting death threats. We went to the Arc to the Sheraton, and I know she left. Did she leave the Sheraton to Swiss? It might be, but everybody was around. And I know Dagny was there with them every morning and telling me what's going on.
But you can agree then that Miss Lich wasn't staying in the same hotel as you from February 7th onward. Can you agree with that?
That could be. That could be.
All right.
It's also, remember, she had a hotel room. We had so many different hotel rooms. You know, I was in 4 or 5 hotel rooms that were Tamara's. I don't know if everybody knew which hotel room belonged to who. It was just a block of hotel rooms. It didn't really matter, you know, whose room was whose.
Right, but all of these folks, they had to basically come and see you because you were confined to your room.
I would go to the other rooms when they're around. So there was also a boardroom on the 16th floor, if I remember, that I went up to for a couple of meetings. So now, communication was there. Like, it wasn't, you know.
So I want to take you to February 11th, 2022.
Okay.
You knew about that meeting that was taking place between the members of the board and Dean French and the mayor, or through the mayor. You knew about that on that day.
I didn't know about that.
You didn't.
No.
You're saying you didn't know about it.
Though I heard Dean French's name in one of there was a news article. I didn't know the capacity at it at the time. Now I do. I didn't know the details of it. Again, everything was opaque. It was, Keith, we're going to go do a deal with the city.
So there was a board meeting that you couldn't attend around that time. You attended by phone conference because you were in your room. Do you remember that?
No, I don't.
You don't. Well, they had a meeting. You were in attendance, according to our records, and this was all discussed.
It was on phone or Zoom or Signal?
You called in. Everyone else was there physically. It was at the Swiss.
I don't remember.
And you called in.
I don't remember.
You don't remember?
No.
Okay. Well, that's going to be testified to, so I have to be fair to you.
No, fair enough.
Right. And so all of this was discussed before the deal that was discussed with the mayor. Everybody knew about it, and you're saying you didn't.
No.
All right.
So the deal, as I explained before, when Keith said we're going to reach out to the city, I questioned that strategy. And the board was willing to reach out to the city. I said, I don't agree. And I got no specifics in terms of what they were going to do. Because a deal is what? Leaving? How is that a deal?
So
I don't understand. It didn't make any sense.
So the board, the majority of the board didn't agree with you. Fair?
Okay. Yeah.
Right. And you were eventually removed from this board. Is this correct?
This was after.
Yes.
Yeah, well after.
Right.
Do you want to know why?
Well, I'm going to get into that.
Okay.
And some of the animosity that arose was that the board had voted to do all these things, enter into these agreements. Then you broke into or went into Ms. Lich's tweet account or whatever they're called.
Broke into?
Well, you went into it and pretending to be her.
The entire time,
right,
as she asked me to.
But you posted something that you knew was a lie.
No.
You knew that they had done this deal. You knew.
There's no deal.
Mr.
No.
Commissioner, I'm going to object. I think the questions are getting a little argumentative and accusing the witness of lying. I don't think that's the role.
Yeah, I hear your objection, but I think this is cross-examination, and I'll give some latitude.
Go ahead. Yeah.
So you're saying before you went in to her account, representing to the public at large.
I didn't go into her account. I was using her account from the very beginning, and the account is linked to her cell phone number.
Right.
If they didn't want me to be using it, which was never told to me, guess what? You could just tell me you don't want to use it. which was never
So
communicated
no
to
one
me.
on the board and no one else told you to do that. You did that on your own initiative.
No, Tamara told everybody in the board, all comms go through Benjamin.
Yeah, I'm not asking about that. I'm asking about the
No,
tweet.
but this is an important,
I
fact.
understand. I would like you to answer
She
my
was
question.
telling me everything goes through him.
Right. That's
Yeah.
nice. And so that gave you the prerogative to go on to her Twitter and make something up and say that
Didn't
this
make
is fake
something up.
news.
There,
I think this is just getting into argument, and I think he's answered the question.
Move on. So after this deal goes through and some of the trucks did get moved, you're aware of that?
then why did Keith tell me the deal's not going well? Sorry.
Right.
He asked you about
Right.
Okay.
trucks were moved. So let's try and,
Focus on
you answer the question, and we'll get through this.
And so you did get that email with the comms essentially sheet that was supposed to go out to all the truckers about the deal. You did get that, and we've seen it up there, and you replied, looks good.
It's just it's a comms piece, right? It's not a deal. It's communications piece.
Right. So what was your expectation? Did you believe that the city of Ottawa was going to enter into a contract?
Well, when I followed up after that, I was told there's no deal. That was the whole point. I was getting bombarded online. People were getting upset. Truckers were getting upset. I had to communicate something. That's why I reached out to them in those text messages. That's why I asked Keith, is there a deal? No. And he said, specifically in a text message, we haven't drafted anything. And Tamara as well told me, there's nothing yet. I'll let you know if there's something. And it never was.
Okay. And so again, you're communicating, the truckers are reaching out to you, and who were these truckers reaching out to you that were concerned?
No, people online. I've getting bombarded with thousands
Right.
of messages.
But nobody from the board that you were on?
Well, the board wasn't getting angry. It's the people on the street that I didn't want them to get angry and, God forbid, get violent. So I needed to communicate at this point. There's no deal. There's nothing.
And so let's talk about this. So you had said in your evidence that after the police started taking enforcement action,
Yes.
that a bunch of people came to talk to you because Tamara had been arrested, Chris Barber had been arrested, and they asked, what should we do? And you said, leave. You need to leave.
No. So what I said specifically and directly, I said, I'll support you whatever you want to do. If you want to ask my opinion, I think maybe it's time to leave, just to give them a little bit, because I thought they would attack me for it, to be entirely honest. And Bridget was the first one to pipe up and say, yeah, I think we should leave. Joe, I think, was the next one. They all said, yeah, it's getting violent. And I said, okay, if that's what you want to do, I'll do my best to communicate that, call your lead. And we all started working.
And right. And so the deal that was being negotiated, that I understand you say you didn't know about it, but the deal there was to get the same sort of thing done, but to move the trucks without any violence, right?
No, the deal was to consolidate trucks onto Wellington, is what I've been hearing all this week.
But get them
That's
out of the
not-
residential areas.
No, we were leaving Ottawa entirely.
Okay.
That's what I communicated.
All right.
Not consolidate them onto Wellington Street to make it easier to kettle the trucks.
So you were not happy with Mr. Wilson and Ms. Chipiuk and the folks doing the negotiation to try and end things peacefully, but you're okay with telling everybody to leave once violence has started. That's what you would rather have done.
No, I was uncomfortable with Keith Wilson and Eva, because that's not the client solicitor relationship, them telling us what to do and going and doing off their own deals and coming and dictating to the truckers what we have to do.
But you're on a board. Do you understand how that works?
Of course, I
So
was
the
one of the
board-
few on the board that
Right.
knew that.
I understand that, but the board gave him instructions. It's not just what you want.
Because what the board was doing to, what the JCCF was doing to them was scaring them. They offered them free legal advice, and if you don't listen to us, then we're going to pull your free legal advice. Everybody was scared. We had the class action suit. We didn't know what we were going to see potentially, and then we had all of this pressure coming from the JCCF regularly trying to dictate how the messaging should, well, not the messaging, but how the convoy should operate, how the board should work, whatever.
Right.
It was really difficult. It really caused a lot of problems.
And I also understand, again, that you were making the decisions about what media outlets that you would communicate through. Is that correct?
Which Keith supported. And he
Right.
mentioned yesterday that, anyways, yeah.
I understand. So, but you specifically mentioned here today, Russian Today.
Yes.
Right. And I understand that my clients had no input into you communicating with Russian Today. You just did that.
Yes, like all the other interviews.
Right. And you're familiar that Russian Today is essentially a Russian propaganda outfit. You're aware of that.
Yeah, they thought it was hysterical as well, because the CBC,
So you went
I'll
to a Russian propaganda outfit
if I can
in
explain.
order to portray what you believed was the message that you wanted to portray?
Mr. Commissioner, is he asking the question or answering the question on behalf of the witness?
He's asking the question. The witness will get a chance to answer.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you went to Russian Today on your own accord, which you know is a Russian propaganda outfit, and thought that that would be a good communication strategy?
It's funny how back then they supported me because there was a reason I did that. The reason I did that is because the CBC started disseminating some more narrative that maybe the Convoy is a Russian operation. And I wanted to bait the CBC into building that narrative. That's how alternative media works. And they didn't take the bait, but it was great.
But you weren't instructed to do that. That was just on your own initiative.
No, I was instructed with my team to do all the communications. That's what I was told to do.
But never specifically contacting a Russian propaganda outfit.
That's a wonderful narrative, but they loved it when I did it. And